about the Taylor Swift tour earlier. I know that she's on her Eras tour. I'm telling you, man, you don't want to suffer the wrath of Taylor Swift. So we like to call our tour the Errors Tour, because I feel like...
For decades, Dave Grohl has maintained his reputation as the nicest man in rock, rarely speaking negatively about fellow musicians. From his drumming days with Nirvana to fronting the Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl has established himself as one of music's most beloved figures. However, even the most diplomatic musicians have their limits. Now at 63, Grohl has surprised fans by revealing 7 artists he genuinely disliked at some point. And the list might shock you. Starting at number 7 on our list is Courtney Love. For nearly 30 years now, Dave Grohl and Courtney Love have been involved in one of rock's biggest feuds. Their bitter conflict began right after Kurt Cobain's tragic death in 1994. Honestly, it has been a complete mess ever since. We're talking about ongoing legal battles, some pretty nasty public fights, and a lot of monetary disputes. Dave Grohl and Courtney Love actually got along quite well at first. Grohl even attended Kurt Cobain and Love's small wedding in Hawaii back in 1992. Photos from that time even show him holding Love's hand. But everything changed the moment Cobain died. Their friendship completely fell apart. That's when they started to disagree about Nirvana's future and all the unreleased music.
Are you in touch with Dave Grohl, Chris Novoselic? I heard you guys kind of meet up.
Me and Chris really, he kind of herds goat. Like, I don't really talk to Chris, but we're cool. But Dave and me, like, a lot of people saw the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame where we hugged it out, man, and it was all good. But the other night, we used to really like each other. And then there was 20 years where we sued each other. So,
Right.
And then we stopped.
The conflict escalated dramatically in the early 2000s when Love sued Grohl and Chris Novoselic for control of Nirvana's legacy. In a controversial move, Love managed to obtain a court order. This halted the release of Nirvana's last song, You Know You're Right, which the band recorded just 3 months before Cobain's suicide. In her lawsuit, Love essentially stated that Nirvana was merely a one-man show. She even referred to Grohl as the band's 6th drummer, significantly downplaying his role. Additionally, she alleged that Grohl and Novoselic had coerced her into signing their current partnership agreement while she was still in mourning. Their fight mainly happened because they both wanted control and money. After Kurt Cobain's death, Love initially owned more than 98% of Nirvana's publishing rights. However, she later expressed regret over signing contracts that provided Grohl with a larger share of Nirvana's royalties. In 2021, Courtney Love made some quite bold accusations on Instagram, claiming that Grohl and Chris Novoselic forced her to sign a contract that redirected Nirvana royalties intended for Cobain's family to themselves. Grohl reportedly channeled his anger into Foo Fighters songs, particularly I'll Stick Around, which fans widely believe he wrote about Love. After 2 decades of conflict, the pair surprisingly reconciled at Nirvana's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in 2014. Love later explained, I think you just get to an age where, why are we suing each other? Really? It just got stupid. Dave Grohl and I had some rough times over 20 years. Even though they publicly made up, that peace didn't last very long. Love's accusations on Instagram in 2021 really suggest that the bad feelings have come back. Next is Noel Gallagher at number 6. Grohl dislikes this guitarist because of their clash in 2019. The feud between Noel Gallagher of Oasis and Dave Grohl of Foo Fighters reached a new peak at Glastonbury 2024. Gallagher publicly refused to speak to the American rock star.
Are you going to sign the petition? Okay, well you can, if the fucking drummer from Nirvana wants to get Oasis back together, I hereby start a petition to fucking up the Foo Fighters split up. Anybody's free to fucking sign it.
The conflict began in 2019. Grohl and late Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins joked about starting a petition for an Oasis reunion during a Reading show. Grohl asked the crowd, how many people want to see Oasis play a show? This public request annoyed Noel. He responded by saying he would start a petition for Foo Fighters to break up. The situation got worse when Hawkins called Gallagher a jerk. He also referred to Noel's solo project as the low-charting turds. By 2020, Gallagher had made his stance clear. He saw Grohl at an LCD Sound System concert but refused to acknowledge him. This is when he first used his signature phrase, wind his neck in. Grohl's close relationship with Liam Gallagher adds more tension. Liam is Noel's brother and former Oasis bandmate. The two musicians worked together on Liam's 2022 single Everything's Electric. Grohl co-wrote the song and played drums. Grohl has publicly praised Liam as one of the last remaining rock stars. This likely annoys Noel, given the brothers' well-known split. Grohl has often expressed his hope for an Oasis reunion, seeing it as giving the fans what they want. However, this continued effort has only made Gallagher more resentful. The climax came at Glastonbury 2024, where Gallagher completely ignored Grohl in front of thousands of fans. Their feud now stands as one of rock's most public disputes. At number 5 is William Goldsmith, the original Foo Fighters drummer, whose conflict with Grohl became the most damaging and enduring dispute of his career. After Nirvana ended, Grohl recruited Goldsmith from the well-respected alternative rock band Sunny Day Real Estate, along with bassist Nate Mendel. Goldsmith was an accomplished drummer with a strong reputation in Seattle's music scene and seemed like the perfect fit for Grohl's new project. The conflict erupted during the recording of The Color and The Shape. Goldsmith worked intensively for 3 weeks, putting in 13-hour days to record drum tracks for this album. He believed he was contributing as the band's official drummer and gave everything he had to the sessions. However, Grohl secretly began re-recording almost all of Goldsmith's drum parts without informing him. Goldsmith only discovered this betrayal after completing what he thought was his contribution to the album. According to Consequence News, Goldsmith believes that management, the producers, and Dave all wanted Grohl to play drums, and they removed his work so that they didn't have to pay him proper credit. Goldsmith quit during the album's production and returned to Sunny Day Real Estate. Despite his extensive work, he remains credited on only 2 tracks, Doll and the slow intro to Up in Arms. In a 2017 interview with the Daily Mail, Goldsmith called Grohl a schoolyard bully and said he felt creatively raped by the experience. He stated that continuing with the band would have made me feel like my soul was destroyed and I would have likely ended up dead. The incident destroyed what could have been a major career opportunity, as The Color and The Shape became one of Foo Fighters' most successful albums. Taylor Hawkins replaced Goldsmith and remained the band's drummer until his death in 2022. Even decades later, the bitterness remains unresolved. Grohl has admitted by saying, "William will never forgive me for playing drums on that record," while Goldsmith questions why Grohl hasn't reached out if he truly feels guilty, saying, "If he feels bad about how things went, then why hasn't he tried to get hold of me? All he would have to do is sit down and talk it out with me." This dispute differs from Grohl's other conflicts because it involves genuine professional betrayal rather than public disagreements, making it especially harmful to both musicians involved. At number 4 on our list is Taylor Swift. Though this represents a very different type of conflict for Dave Grohl, one that erupted suddenly through social media and fan culture rather than personal relationships. In June 2024, during a Foo Fighters concert at London Stadium, Grohl made comments that appeared to target Swift's live performance capabilities. While both artists were performing in London simultaneously, Swift performed at Wembley Stadium for her Eras tour. Grohl joked that his band's tour should be called the Eras Tour because we actually play live, seemingly implying that Swift does not.
I know we were joking about the Taylor Swift tour earlier. I know that she's on her Eras tour. I'm telling you, man, you don't want to suffer the wrath of Taylor Swift. So we like to call our tour the Errors Tour because I feel like
Taylor Swift's response was characteristically strategic and subtle. The next night during her third London show, Swift appeared to respond without naming Grohl directly. NBC News reported that she praised her band, saying, "Every one of my band members, every single one of our crew, my band, who's going to be playing live for you for 3.5 hours tonight, they deserve this so much." This approach allowed her to address Grohl's comments without appearing to escalate the conflict directly. The reaction from Swift's fanbase, known as Swifties, was immediate and intense. Social media platforms were flooded with criticism of Grohl, with many fans questioning his motives and suggesting that his comments were an attempt to generate publicity by using Swift's name. Coming in at number 3 is a full band that Grohl has feuded with, none other than Guns N' Roses. Dave Grohl's involvement in the legendary feud between Nirvana and Guns N' Roses represents one of the most significant conflicts in rock history. The conflict between Nirvana and Guns N' Roses was primarily centered on the fundamental differences between Kurt Cobain and Axl Rose. However, Grohl actively participated in the public confrontations. Initially, Axl Rose was a vocal fan of Nirvana, even wearing the band's hat in the Don't Cry music video. He later attempted to recruit them to open for Guns N' Roses on their major stadium tour with Metallica. The positive relationship between the bands did not last. It began to sour when Cobain started to publicly criticize Guns N' Roses for what he considered their backward-looking views on issues like homophobia and misogyny. Cobain's public statements criticizing Rose and his band created a rift that would culminate in a famous confrontation. The feud reached its peak at the 1992 MTV Video Music Awards, where both bands were present and tensions erupted backstage. The incident began when Rose approached Cobain and Love in the artist's tent. According to eyewitness accounts, Love sarcastically asked Rose if he wanted to be the godfather of her and Cobain's baby, Frances Bean Cobain. Rose's response was reportedly aggressive, leading to a heated exchange. During Nirvana's performance of Lithium that night, Grohl can be heard repeatedly saying, "Hi Axl, where's Axl?" into his microphone, clearly taunting Rose and escalating the public nature of the conflict. Though Cobain led the conflict, Grohl's public taunting amplified the feud. His taunting during the MTV performance demonstrated his loyalty to Cobain and his willingness to publicly engage in the conflict. This incident showcased Grohl's personality as someone who would stand by his bandmates. The feud effectively ended with Cobain's death in 1994, though its legacy continued to influence rock culture. Years later in 2016, when Axl Rose broke his foot, he borrowed Dave Grohl's custom-made rock throne to perform. After the run of shows, Rose tweeted, "Huge thank you to Dave Grohl for the use of his rock throne. An amazing gesture." This gesture tells that some of the bad blood between them had finally healed. The feud appears to have been resolved, with both musicians showing mutual respect in recent years. Buzz Osborne is number 2 on our list of artists disliked by Grohl. The conflict between Dave Grohl and Buzz Osborne is one of the more painful professional fallouts in Grohl's career. Their relationship goes back to the early days of the Pacific Northwest music scene. Osborne's band, the Melvins, formed in 1983 and was crucial in shaping the heavy, sludgy sound that would later become grunge.
Went on tour, so the story goes from Dave, my old friend Dave. Remember, this is all leading up to me blowing it big time. Okay. Heard that they got back from the tour, and his 2-year-old kid didn't have any idea who he was, the drummer. He's like, my kid doesn't even know who I am.
Osborne acted as a mentor to many younger artists, including Kurt Cobain, who often said that the Melvins were a big influence on Nirvana. This connection is how Grohl came to know Osborne and his music. Grohl and Osborne's relationship was built on mutual respect. Osborne had watched Grohl transition from being Nirvana's drummer to the leader of the Foo Fighters, and there seemed to be a genuine friendship and professional admiration between them. This is what made their eventual conflict so difficult for Osborne. The conflict began during the recording of the Melvins' 2016 album, Basses Loaded. This was a unique album that featured a different bass player on each of its 12 songs. However, as Rolling Stone reported, the original plan was much bigger and more personal for the surviving members of Nirvana. Grohl had proposed reuniting with Chris Novoselic to record with the Melvins, potentially performing Nirvana songs with different vocalists, including David Yow of the Jesus Lizard. This concept was particularly meaningful given that it would have been one of the first times Grohl and Novoselic had collaborated musically since Nirvana's end. This project was scheduled to happen before the remaining Nirvana members performed with Paul McCartney at the 2012 Hurricane Sandy benefit concert. However, when the time came for the recording sessions, Grohl simply failed to appear. Osborne felt both professionally let down and personally hurt by Grohl not showing up. After the incident, Osborne was unusually direct in his criticism of Grohl during interviews. This was a notable change from his usual, more diplomatic way of handling industry relationships. As Osborne explained to Pitchfork, "So Chris Novoselic came down and we started rehearsing, and Dave was supposed to show up, but he just never showed up. He blew it off totally, and it was his idea." In an interview with NME, Osborne said Grohl was too busy playing songs at the Oscars and shit. This was a clear jab at Grohl's performance of the Beatles' Blackbird during the 2016 Academy Awards. Osborne's disappointment was clear in his comments to a Rolling Stone interview, in which he said, "I don't do that to people, you know? Generally, when I come up with an idea for something and it's my idea, and people fly down there on their own dime, which is what Chris did, and then you leave them hanging, that's not something I'm known for." This statement shows just how frustrated Osborne was. First, he pointed out that the collaboration was Grohl's idea, which made it especially frustrating when Grohl backed out. He also highlighted that Chris Novoselic had traveled at his own expense for the sessions. Finally, Osbourne compared his own professional reliability with what he saw as Grohl's careless attitude toward commitments. The incident had lasting effects on Osbourne's relationship with Grohl. According to Far Out magazine, Osbourne has seemingly held a grudge towards Grohl ever since the 2016 incident. The incident also affected how the wider music community viewed both musicians. While Grohl's reputation as one of rock's most reliable and personable figures remained mostly unchanged, this event gave his critics reason to suggest that his nice guy image might not be the whole story. For Osbourne, the incident reinforced his reputation as someone willing to speak truth to power, regardless of the potential consequences for his career. Despite Grohl's absence, the Bases Loaded project was a success. Chris Novoselic kept his promise and played bass on several songs. The album also featured other well-known bassists like J.D. Pincus from the Butthole Surfers and Trevor Dunn from Mr. Bungle. The album got good reviews, proving the Melvins could still make innovative music even with the drama happening behind the scenes. Although many fans believe Grohl was wrong in this situation, he never appeared with Osbourne again afterward. Finally, the #1 spot on our list of artists that Dave Grohl hates goes to Lars Ulrich. The relationship between Dave Grohl and Lars Ulrich is a complex story of professional disagreements that cause tension. Unlike the direct disappointment with Ozzy Osbourne, Grohl and Ulrich had public disputes about artistic and business practices. There were two primary reasons for the tension between Dave Grohl and Lars Ulrich. Grohl criticized Ulrich's drumming and also publicly disagreed with Metallica's stance during the Napster debate in the early 2000s. Dave Grohl's comments about Lars Ulrich's drumming fit into a long-running wave of criticism the Metallica drummer often faced. Even though Grohl usually joked or kept his remarks light, they carried extra weight because he's widely respected as one of the best drummers in rock. More significantly, Grohl publicly disagreed with Metallica's aggressive legal action against Napster. Napster was the file-sharing service that allowed users to download music for free. In 2000, Metallica, with Ulrich at the forefront, took a leading role in the music industry's battle against digital piracy. They sued Napster and gave the company a list of 300,000 ad users who had downloaded Metallica songs. Grohl disagreed with how Metallica handled music downloads. He felt fans shouldn't just take music for free, but he also believed suing them was the wrong move. To him, it was about showing respect and handling the artist-fan relationship differently. The Napster fight badly hurt Ulrich's reputation, with many fans and musicians seeing Metallica as greedy and disconnected from their audience. Despite their early conflicts, Grohl and Ulrich's relationship slowly evolved into one of mutual respect and friendship. This change showed how both musicians had matured and come to appreciate each other's contributions to rock music. The turning point for Grohl and Ulrich's relationship came through shared experiences and interactions within the music industry. Both had endured intense public scrutiny as members of highly successful bands, which created a foundation of understanding between them. As the Foo Fighters and Metallica continued to tour and record successfully, they gained a growing mutual respect for each other's professional achievements. The biggest sign that things had improved came in 2017 when Grohl joined Ulrich as a guest on his Apple Music radio show, It's Electric. During the interview, Grohl shared various stories from his career, including his experiences working with Mick Jagger, his friendship with Paul McCartney, and his run-ins with other rock stars. The comfortable, friendly tone of the conversation stood in stark contrast to their earlier tensions. The shift from rivalry to friendship between Grohl and Ulrich shows how relationships in music can change. Time and shared struggles helped both men find common ground. In the end, their story reflects maturity. As they grew older, they stopped competing and started respecting each other's place in rock history. That brings us to the end of our list of the 7 artists Dave Grohl has admitted he hated the most. Some of these fights ended quickly, while others left marks that lasted for years. It just goes to show that even someone known as the nicest guy in rock can carry some pretty deep grudges. Which of these feuds surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below.